Applying record criteria. So the real power of a query lies in the ability to display a filtered list of records in a Dynaset. To filter the records and see only the ones that you want, you will need to enter search criteria in the criteria row in the query grid. You simply type an example of the data that you want to see in the criteria cell and run the query to display all records from the original table that match the query. I'm just going to right click on Query Employees and go into Design View. So I'm just going to move down so I can just see the whole of the employees fields. So once we're here, we need to click in the criteria cell for department and type administration. Once we've typed administration, we want to click on the Query Tools Design tab and click on the top half of the view in the Views group, this one here. So we're switching between. So if you use the drop down arrow, we've got the data sheet in the design view. So we're now looking at the data that's been extracted from the table. So I'm just going to go back now. We can see it's all administration. So I'm going to use a compound filter now. So what I'm going to do is type 40 in the criteria cell for weekly hours. So not only do they have to be in the administration department, but they also have to work 40 hours. So I'm just going to run that query now. So you can see we've got administration and weekly hours. So I've got one of 23. So I'm just going to go back now and I'm going to say, okay, they have to have a salary of more than 80,000. Run my query and it reduces it to 1 of 8. So you can see how we've created a compound filter with multiple criteria. So that's applying record criteria. So the next step I want to show you is how we clear that selection criteria. So instead of having to highlight each section of the criteria to delete it individually, there's a much quicker way. So in our criteria to the left hand side, all we need to do is get the black arrow, click the horizontal, so it's a horizontal arrow, click to highlight, and then press delete. And the criteria is cleared really quickly. So I'm just going to save and I'm just going to close that query. So I've just used the Control S, right click, you can save, and then I'm just going to close the query. So that's our query. So that's clearing the selection criteria. Now I want to save the query because the two main types of select queries that you use. So those that you create as a one-off search of the data and those that you create for repeated and ongoing use. So if you're going to use a query on a regular basis, it should be saved. You can then also use it as a template to create other queries without variations, perhaps to the criteria or the field grid. So we're going to make a copy of the query employees. So we'll need to display the menu of options and select the design view. So once we're in there, I just want to show you this is the one that we're saving. We're just going to close. So I'm going to right click and then out of the menu options, select design view. I'm going to type the department as administration. So this is the query that I always want to keep. So I'm going to run that just to make sure it's just administration. Then I want to ensure that we have 26 records. Then I want to click on the File tab and then I want to click on Save As. Then I want to save an object as. And I'm just going to save an object as, save the current database object as a new object and save as. So what I'm going to get is my dialog box. So this time, instead of it being a copy of query employees, I'm just going to put admin on the end. Then I'm going to click OK because it is a query. And I now have my two queries. So I'm just going to close my query employee admin. And when I double click on my query employees, you can see I still have all my data. So this is just like my template. So I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to go into View. And in my department, I'm just going to type Executive. I'm going to run my query. That's fine. I'm going to go File, Save As, Save Object As, Save As, and then I'm just going to call it Query Employee Exec, and OK. So there I have my admin query and my exec query. just right click and close down my tables to take them back. So it's important to give your queries meaningful names so that you can see what they are. Using a prefix such as a QRY for query will tell you at a glance that you are working with a query, and it's easier to distinguish from tables, forms and reports. As you can see, there's our tables, there's our queries. Now if it was a form, if I want to rename that form because I want to put at the beginning the form is FRM, and then I'll just take out the space, you can see how easy it is to rename your forms, your queries and your tables.